hit it. I hit it, man. Here we go.
Here we go.
Do you know how hard it is when that countdown is on the screen, not to just press my face up against the thing so that when it goes down, it's like, it's just.
Yeah, no one would ever know this, but I was trying to give a handsome Dan wild crazy eye, but I have squinty eyes and my eyes won't open enough to get the crazy eye look. So
These people don't know who Handsome Dan is anyway.
I know they probably will
So
before the day's over, though.
I bet they will.
I bet
So
they will. Hey, everybody. Welcome into the hashtag Indie Summer Week 3 Q&A session. These have been so much fun, these Friday, because everybody's a little punchy on Fridays, which is, kind of fun. You never know what's going to happen.
Punchy every day, Hank. What are you talking about? I feel like that's just my go-to mode.
Well, you're the one that chooses to get up at 2:00 in the morning and then live on espresso all day long. So
I was out by 7 o'clock last night. I was in bed by 7:30. I was done. I was out.
Our youngest son, who recently moved out, came by yesterday afternoon, and he said, "Fantastic Four opens tonight, and I get off work at 9, and we're going to go to the 10:00 movie." And
polite pass.
it was like, okay. So yeah, we watched Fantastic Four until midnight, which is,
oh my God. I'm such an old lady. I'm like, Hank, you drove in the dark? I don't drive in the dark anymore.
Right. I better get my glasses before I drive in the dark. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't know. Do we have any questions in the chat? Should we do questions first or should we do feedback first?
Well, let's check in with the chat. I noticed that we have a lively chat today, as always. I love popping in and seeing that everybody is just waiting for us to come in. And Reed, B, and Journey, and NJ, and who else can I not see because I won't put my glasses on? It's
Errol and
Errol and
who else? I'm scrolling. Oh my God. I almost said that, but I can't not say the Billy Crystal line from the movie. And so I stopped myself from even opening my mouth.
What movie was that? Was that
the one where they go to like the dude ranch?
Yes. I own the VHS of that. That's how oh
my God. Can I just say Meg just joins the chat? Meg, take my money now. For her book, I'm like, just take my money now. City Slickers.
City Slickers. Reed. Yes, thank you, Reed. Thank you.
I think Reed is of our generations, though. Yeah. So I said generations plural. We're the same. We're the same one. But
that one thing. Remember that line from the movie? It's that one thing.
One thing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Years. Reed, 56. I'm 54 this year.
Know somebody, Hank? Yeah.
Well, closer than I want to admit, but yeah. Meg, thanks. I'll send you my Venmo.
All right.
Meg with the comment.
I think we just need to get started. Now, if you guys have questions, put them in the chat. We don't have, there's no Q&A in this. That's when we're in the community itself, right? Okay. Yeah. So you guys do me a solid. Let's and if anybody joins afterwards, I know they're not going to know I said to do this, but if you have a question, put it in all caps and yell it at me so that I see it screaming as I scroll through the chat. That'll make it easy. That's a nice, if it's in all caps, I know it's a question and I won't scroll past it.
And if you're talking and I see it, I'll try to flag it and start it there so we won't lose track of it. We'll watch for each other as.
It's like, I got to get a haircut. It's out of control.
Some days.
Get out of my face.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's start with reads, just because it's not on my Google Doc. I put everybody else's on my Google Doc and I made some notes, and I did not put reads in my Google Doc because it is an actual image. So Reed is probably tired of hearing me say like how impressed I am with him, because he came from advertising. So he's got the skills needed to, like, you know, work the computer, but also do the design.
Yeah. Right.
You've got all the parts and pieces, man. So you're really okay. NJ is asking something, and it might kind of play into Reed's, because so Reed, you've got a very different take on jacket copy, and I love it because it's different, and anything different is a pattern interrupt that gets your attention.
Right.
So for no other reason than this is a pattern interrupt, I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, I do too. And the first thing when I saw this morning, the first thing I thought is, you know, the old adage of learning the rules so that you can then effectively break them. Yeah, that's the vibe I got from this, is like Reed knows what's going on, and then he's understanding that people are looking for a certain thing and they're getting a different presentation, and that's gonna make them linger longer and take it in, which I think is the desired effect.
So here's what else I love about this. You get an idea of the story without being told anything. And even though you might think that like these character profiles are a bit of an info dump, they're kind of not at the same time. So you can tell from the top part, this is priority red, you know, communications between these. You've got the sphere, and you've got Umbra operatives and Omega agents, right? So you know you've got these two factions.
Right.
I am assuming that the Omega agents are actually the main characters and the Umbras are the bad guys. Am I correct in that read? Is that how you're reading it, Hank?
That was kind of, and the color choices,
bad guys,
you know, kind of give that. And then while we're waiting, Reed says yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Red versus
so blue. What were you going to say? Were you going to say something while we were waiting?
I was just going to say that in reading the little character bios there, his choice of what to share fills you in without having to get the backstory. Like the year they were born, obviously in the future. Okay, so this is giving me context clues without telling me this is a future-based science fiction story. I can get that from there without you having to, you know, hand feed that to me. Like the choice of the context clues that you put there go toward the whole presentation. It's brilliantly done. Yeah.
Love the bottom, by the way, where it says they must not interfere with redacted.
Yes, I love it. Love it.
So
this definitely humor. Like I don't know anything about the story, but this makes me want to know about the story. And that's the entire purpose of jacket copy. Like, I don't know what's going on, but I want to find out what's going on.
Right. Because the jacket copy shouldn't tell you everything.
Right.
It just needs to tell you enough to make you pick it up and buy it. And so I think this so perfectly represents Reed and what I know about Reed too, and his humor. Like every comment that he makes in the community or in the The chat here, no pressure, Reed, to continue being funny, but you're always funny. You always make me laugh. Sometimes I have to try not to laugh on camera because I'm trying to look like I'm paying attention to whatever it is that Hank is saying. But, you know, I think this is a great example of doing something different. So, do you have any suggestions for improvements? Because right now I really don't.
I really don't, because Reed chose to kind of break out of the norm.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have any suggestions. You did it well. You led with some ambiguity, but again, with the context clues, and you do a good job of letting me know what I'm going into without, and then, you know, I read all this and I'm like excited. I want to know what's happening. And then if I sit and think about it, I really don't know anything about it. But I know just enough that I want to pick it up and read it. And
yeah,
and I don't know, you know, if I could do that with my books, if someone reads the back cover and thinks, "Oh, I've got to read this book," that's you've done the job. Like I don't have anything to add.
So Reed did already take one of our suggestions though and incorporate it to get to this point. So he made it bigger to read. And I want to bring this up to everyone because since I'm in the space where right now I have an illustrator who's working on my back cover. As a matter of fact, he sent me like another iteration of it today. I'm thinking about all the same things. So there's an art and design piece that when I first looked at Reed's initial file for this, I could tell the words were going to be too small. So if you're going to DIY this, you guys definitely print it out. And I'm going to make this smaller so we're bigger and I can sort of show you. Actually, Hank, I'm going to make you disappear for just a second so I take up the whole screen so I can just kind of show everybody a little bit more. Okay, so the first, I printed Reed's first iteration. So here it is. And it was just the words here were a little too small to read. And just to sort of compare the words on the back of, so this is one of Michelle Hazen who came on, who did our editors and editing podcast on Monday. This was one of her books she did with Penguin Random House. And I only picked it up so that we could compare the size of the font. So you can see that this is bigger, this is a little bit smaller. So if you're doing it on your own, I highly suggest if you have a way to print it at home before you send off and have a book printed for you, print it at home and just look at all the pieces. Scale is huge. Jeff Brown was talking about how typography is huge. And it's because you got to pick type that's legible. You've got to pick type that's just easy to read too. Some of the weirder fonts can be great, but are also difficult. And so Hank and I actually just had this discussion with my cover because Finn, my illustrator, had hand done a type and it was in cursive. And that sparked this whole debate. And Hank got all the educators in his family to weigh in. Do kids read cursive now? Are kids going to be able to read this on their own? Like we went 10 rounds over this cursive font. And what we ended up doing was it was just cursive enough that it felt fancy. This is where we landed. Just cursive enough to feel fancy, but still super legible. And I got Finn to like break apart some of the letters so that kids that didn't understand the cursive that went together could see the separate letters and, you know, read it. So, you know,
what you kind of landed with is like a kid's fancy. Like if a kid was doing this, what they would think is like, this is super elaborate and fancy. And it's actually kind of kind of a mixture, kind of a hodgepodge of doing some things right and some things not,
wrong,
which totally feeds into the aesthetic of, who your target reader is.
But then again, think about it. I'm thinking about my reader. I'm not thinking about me and what I like. I'm thinking about my reader. And I think Reed's right here, what Reed is doing is this looks very sci-fi to me too. Even the text that he chose, those fonts to me are very much in the sci-fi, like computer realm. Like it's like, to me, some of those old computer fonts are like the sci-fi version of steampunk.
Yeah.
Right. And so like,
it's kind of like a terminal font. That's
yeah.
So I was going to mention too that we talked about kerning the other day, and that's this is great typography. The kerning, the spacing between the letters and the spacing between the lines, is you don't feel like you're being inundated, but it's very readable. It's very accessible, and it's one of those things that you have to kind of sit and look at it for a minute to explain why it's so inviting, but it just really works.
It just is.
And that's why we talked about typography and kerning, especially, that if done correctly, you don't want people to think about it. You don't want somebody to look and say, "Oh, that's amazing kerning on there." You want it to say, "Oh, that's just so legible, and I don't know why it's inviting, but it is."
All right, so I see Journey says, now I want to see your cover. I'll give you guys a quick, I'll show you the front, I'll show you the back, and then we'll move on. So this is the front. Did it show up?
Yeah, it looks good.
Okay. That's the front, and you can see, trouble, you can read. It's like kind of can you see my cursor if I put it right there? Yeah. Like right there is kind of a little, I'm just now noticing that one as we're talking through. It was this that we kind of had him break apart because the first one, they all kind of ran together. But it looks very much like the boys in the picture are the ones that wrote it, which was kind of what we were going for. And then I'll show you the back. Let's see, because it only lets me put one at a time. So here's the back, which is really more what we're doing today anyway, is the back copy.
There's our
This is handsome Dan that we were just talking about. Hank was trying to make his crazy eye. But the Half Pint Heroes Pig-Sized Problems is sort of that little bit of a hook that's supposed to pull you in. I tried to keep it short and sweet. And then Finn and I have been going 10 rounds about what items to include from the story around the outside of the jacket copy. My sister, who's a graphic designer, her one thing was we actually need to make the red, that kind of umber red copy in here. She said, make it darker just to make it more accessible. That's an accessibility thing. She said it just needed to have more contrast. So anyway, so it's not just you guys that you go 10 rounds with. It's you hire an illustrator, you pay him a ton of money, and then you go 10 rounds with them. And it's all an iterative thing. I mean, that's the thing about writing. It's not, the iteration doesn't end when you're done with your final revision. You keep iterating. And even after it's been published, that's the great thing when you're indie published. If you find a mistake or you find something that you can do better, or you make a little bit of money and then you want to put it into a new cover.
Or if the market changes and pivots and a certain style is really resonating with readers, you can pivot as well. And you can always hold on to your existing cover because market trends change. Maybe it comes back around and you can use that cover again. That's the beauty of indie publishing. You can keep your finger on the pulse and pivot as you need to.
Yeah, actually, so B was saying right here, I was watching something earlier. They said showing motion or at least layering of things so there aren't blank spots, and yet they all fit like puzzle pieces. I actually told Finn what I liked was that he ombre'd the solid color in the background, which actually gave it some interest. And he wanted to put extra little objects around. And I said, no, we're getting too busy because I don't want to actually take away from the point of it, which is to read the jacket copy. And as a former art teacher, I'm like, you have to use your white space wisely. You walk all over the page, right? So everything has to have purpose, but it's okay to give your eyes the place to rest. And I told Finn, because I know we still have work to do in the back cover, he's actually making a logo for me. So my publishing branch or whatever, my maiden name is Lamb. And so I said I wanted to be Little Lamb Publishing. And I told him I really wanted a lamb wearing glasses. And he's like, I've got so many ideas. So Finn is working on a logo for me, and that will eventually go at the bottom as well. So I wanted to make sure we didn't overload things, because I do want to make sure that the focus of the back is the jacket copy itself. So, but that's really like a case by case thing too. So, all right, I see we've got at least one question. Let's hit it before we do things. So, yeah. Oh, do we have a couple? I saw Rachel's here. What are everyone's thoughts on the side of the pages that have images when the book is closed? Oh, I think we're just getting into an idea of money, because that will attract a reader. I am loving, you guys. By the way, I have not even cracked this book open yet. You can see from the spine, I haven't opened it. But I got this Coffee Shop in an Alternate Universe book. And the fact that the pages have a purple edge, and look, I'm just now kind of noticing there's something going on.
Yeah. Interesting.
Oh, every so often that's what I'm spying. The start of every chapter has a side illustration there. I think that's great, but what do you want to bet? That costs an extra something to have done.
Oh, 100%. And let me tell you this. I'm trying to think, because I've got a couple of books on my shelves. And of course, I can't put my hands on it right away. Shoot. Never mind. I'll find it later. But because indie publishing has been eating traditional publishing's lunch in a lot of areas, what we're seeing now is more and more specialty prints, the sprayed edges, the little graphics here and there, just things that they can do to, put in a little extra collectability on hardbacks, especially. And so you're seeing more and more of that stuff coming. And there are companies that will do that for indie publishers as well, but you're going to pay a premium for it. And that's what traditional publishing is hoping for, is that they put a product out that you're willing to pay a premium for, especially for people that have collectible shelves and stuff like that. So, yeah. Anything to differentiate.
Price it out. Yeah, because you're going to have to weigh. Is it worth the extra cost? Do you think you can get enough extra readers to warrant that's going to have somebody pick it up? I don't know. For a kid's book, is simply the fact that I could make that purple, that might get a kid to pick it up, but that might not make a hill of beans difference to the adult who's buying the book. And if my books aren't in bookstores for someone to see this, and that catch their eye. Whereas this book is traditionally published. You can find it at Barnes & Noble. If you see a stack of them sitting on the table when you walk in the door, that's going to catch your eye. But if somebody doesn't even know about this until it shows up in their Amazon package, was it really worth it?
Well, and we've got a couple of shows coming up. First off, with Nick Cole in a couple of weeks, he's going to talk to us about ARC copy, advanced reader copies, and direct sales. And then his business partner, Jason Onspach, a couple of weeks later is going to come to talk about mailing lists and connecting with your readers. I specifically chose these two guys to come talk about these two topics because they launched a publishing company from the ground up. They were established authors already, but they teamed up to do a series of books, and they did a launch for this product, and they built a mailing list, and they built a relationship with their readers where they do specialty products, and they built a crowd of readers first, and then they have a bunch of readers, and they tell them what kind of products they would like to have, and they do merch, and they do special editions and all of this kind of stuff, and they have built a cottage industry around specifically taking care of their readers, and it's an amazing story. They're going to be a lot of fun. They're going to bring some special juice to this show.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So we got a question here from NJ. Is a jacket copy strictly necessary for every kind of book? NJ, do you want to dig into that question a little bit more? Like, what is the context behind you asking? I'm wondering. Yeah. Just to make sure we don't go off on a weird tangent that doesn't answer your specific question. Let me see. Let me scroll to the bottom and see.
Yeah, like are you talking about like do middle school, middle grade readers or chapter books? Do they need to have the same kind of copy as like an adult thriller? Like, yeah, give us a little.
Funny you would say that about like kids chapter books. So like Bee's book, and we're going to get to her feedback here in a little while. I really should have gone in and started pulling some jacket copy from picture books that I have, because I have a whole, bookshelf full of them in the kids' room that I won't let them get rid of. I've recently pulled all these chapter books because next on my list is to revive a chapter book that I've already written one iteration of it. And so I'm, but if you look, every one of these has jacket copy. And as a matter of fact, I mean, it's just a paragraph, but it has all the same pieces. It has the hook. It has, the middle part, and it has a little cliffhanger. But surely Junie B can find some way to get everyone's attention. ...
Right. So since this is your specialty, I'll ask this: jacket copy for middle grade or chapter books. There are probably not many 6 to 12-year-olds, if we kind of think in that age range between those two, that are buying books themselves, except for Scholastic book fairs. So is the jacket copy targeting those readers, or is it targeting the parents?
The short answer is both.
Yeah.
It's got to target both. Now, remember, the adults aren't reading it like an adult. The adults are reading it, filtering it through the lens of, will my son like this book? Will my daughter like this book? Do I think this book has enough merit to put it in their hands and it's not just wasting time? Like, not every kid grows up with a parent like my mom. My mom was like, I don't care what you're reading as long as you're reading. You can read the back of the cereal box for all I care, as long as I see you reading something. And she always let us pick our own books. She's like, that's important. You read what you want, because if you force a kid to read, and I mean, I go off on a tangent of this, they're going to hate reading, right? Yeah. Not every parent feels that way. Not every teacher feels that way. So you're trying to show through the jacket copy that your book has enough merit for a kid to read, while simultaneously getting a kid to want to read it. So it's super tricky. So NJ has clarified and says, are there kinds of books that don't warrant a jacket copy? And I mean, I do have some that don't have it, but they're like super famous books that everybody already knows. And it's like other people saying nice things about them, like the one that you showed.
And that's what I was about to pull out, is that
it still has it on the flap, on the inside flap.
Yeah. Like, here's James J. Butcher, Jim Butcher's son. This is the second book in his series. and the whole back cover is quotes, blurbs from people. But like you said, on the inside flap, you've got the jacket copy, and then on the other flap is his bio. So, still kind of a typical, what we would expect from a hardback. And I would imagine, I don't have a paperback of this, but I would imagine the paperback is the back cover has this copy. I'm going to try to find an example of that while you're talking.
So my question to you then, AJ, is how are you, or AJ, I don't know why I said AJ. How are you going to sell the book or entice people to read it if they don't know what the book is about? So I don't want to say, no, it's not possible, because people are super creative and there's no telling these days. Maybe the back of your book has a QR code, and when you scan it with your phone, it takes you to some crazy TikTok video that essentially sums up what your book is about. So I don't want to say no, but even that is something on the jacket that is enticing you to figure out what the book is about. So I think you just have to have a way to project that. Maybe you're writing a graphic novel and the back copy is some amazing illustration that with like a single line of dialogue that makes you want to go, oh my God, I have to read that.
Yeah. And here's the perfect example. This is the graphic novel edition of Murder on the Orient Express, the 100-year-old Agatha Christie novel. And on the back cover, we've got an illustration example of the cast of characters. And then we've got the paragraph blurb. And then under that, we've got Agatha Christie's bio information.
So like for this, I would argue that they could have done just the illustration, because if you don't know already what Murder on the Orient Express is, you can figure that out pretty easily, because it's a classic story that has been printed and reprinted a whole bunch of times.
It literally defined the genre.
Yeah. So, it kind of has that going for it. But if you're writing something original and new, if you can find a way to do it that serves your story, do it. I mean, I'm all about thinking outside of the box. So,
well, and like we talked about yesterday, your back cover is your billboard. And we know that you have a certain amount of time with your reader as they're looking at the back cover. So that's from our point of view, but from the reader's point of view, they understand also that the back cover is their billboard, and they go to a bookstore or to Amazon to be sold a book. These are not people walking down the street and you're hitting them in the head with a book. These are people that went looking for books. So they understand when they go looking for a book that this is where they're going to be sold, and they went to the store to be sold. So if they're already in the market and they understand this is where they're sold, then take advantage of it. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. We already have a consumer psychology that's already built around selling books. Use it to your advantage.
So B's like, is there space for the author bio, the blurb, the jacket copy? So again, if you look at a hardback and you look at a paperback, so the hardback that of James Butcher's hardback, the front flap was the jacket copy. The back flap was his bio. That's a standard format that you're going to see that, again, people expect. They sort of go to that to take a look.
Yes.
For a paperback book, it's usually the very back page. You flip it open. If it's something like Murder on the Orient Express, you might have a tiny bio down at the bottom. But usually you've got the author, you've got the illustrator, because this is a chapter book that's kind of heavily got illustrations in it. And that's where you're going to find that.
And this is an adult thriller by David Bell. And the back copy, you've got your sales copy. You've got, then you've got some blurbs under here. So you've got both of those. And then on the very back page, you've got his author bio. Like I said, so these are established norms and these are what readers come to expect. So don't try to mix it up too much, because it's already in people's mind.
I think I've seen a bio on the back cover before, but I guess my hesitation about that is, in the end, the book's really not about me.
Right, exactly.
It's about the story, and it's about my readers. I'm like third in line.
Yeah, it can be interesting, but people are not there.
I'm not going to be what sells it.
Right.
So yeah. All right. Did I miss any questions? I think this has been good, you guys. I might have missed one. Hold on.
Even an author like David Baldacci, who sold 85 million books or something like that. His hardback has sales copy right there, and his bio is in the back flap, like you come to expect. I mean, even.
Oh, B was cute. I read it wrong. She was trying to say the jacket copy is the book's bio.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Totally.
Perfect. That's a great way to say that.
That's our lead in then to all right, let me stop sharing my back copy. Let me start sharing on the screen. Here we go. So everybody can see what we've got. Would it be easiest for everyone in their small eyes? Let me see. Can I make it a little bit bigger? There we go. That fits all the journeys on the screen. Is that good?
That's good. That's perfect.
Do you want to read it out loud, Hank? And
sure.
Then I will follow with some of the questions or with some of my comments when you're done.
Okay. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but Emmett Corradal has spent his life being groomed as the hero of the rebels whose lands Vizia stole. In fact, he hardly remembers his life as a spoiled, mischievous princeling in Kosovo. Life has hardened him. Death has hardened him, and he is no longer the same boy he once was. Now 16, the rebels are preparing to usurp the Viper Queen and place him on the throne. Only, Emmett grew up seeing what power does to people, and he does not want any part of it. He flees rather than being forced into kingship he does not want. Verilith is sent to bring him quietly back to the rebels. Though she is only 17, she is an expert tracker, and though she has Easterner blood, she was raised a vision and wishes to see a Cordial upon the throne once more. And Griffith, assassin for the Viper Queen, is ordered to kill Emmett, rather than allowing him to unsettle the Viper's reign, offering an unrefusable ultimatum determined to finish Emmett quickly so he can return to Kosovo and claim his reward. Only Emmett is not such an easy person to find, and the backdrop of burgeoning war and political unrest offers him the perfect opportunity to stay concealed. Thus begins a cat and mouse chase that will take the three of them across kingdoms and into the heart of what it truly means to be a hero. Okay, Hank, you're going to do my audiobook, right? I feel like you can do the Dukes of Hazzard, like Waylon Jennings voice that I always imagine mine is narrated in. I love it. We asked the exact right one of the two of us to read that. All right, so let me start breaking this down. First of all, Journey, you have done what I do every single time I have to write something like this, which is I put everything I can think of in there. And it ends up being so many names in so many places, but it's like you have to get it out of your head to be able to sort through and start figuring out, like, okay, now what exactly do I need to really communicate the core of the story, the heart of the story? So I think what you've done here is actually typical of what I've seen for several of these, which is you've just got a lot of names and people and places. And it's easy for us as the authors to keep up with it because we know who all these people are, and we know all these lands, and we know the languages that people speak or the regions that they come from or things like that.
But a reader coming to the story for the first time, and this is where you have to put yourself in a reader's shoes, they don't have enough context to be able to follow so many new names and places in the course of like 100 words.
Yeah.
So that's why, I mean, I've seen some people say 3 people max is all you can say. Mm-hmm. I've heard some people say 2 people max. It's like your main character and your, antagonist. But when you have a book like Journeys, so Journey, and I'm going to assume, and Hank, I actually can't see the chat right now because I have I have my notes pulled up, and then I have, so you guys can see my cursor here. Yeah. Tell me if Journey responds in the chat. This is, I'm assuming, a 3-person POV story, right? Which gets tricky because you're like, oh my God, how am I going to convey this story that takes place over the course of 100,000 words, right? 3 different points of view in 100 words. And I think I have some answers for you. But first, you kind of need a hook. All right. So for this, and I don't know if I've kind of succinctly put it together. And again, this is where you need someone outside of your brain sometimes to do it for you. Mm-hmm. Spoiler, I paid Jen Braxma to do mine. Like, I will tell everyone in the world this. I don't like writing this for myself. And so it's okay to have someone else who's read your book help you. But your hook could be something like 3 paths, 1 kingdom on the edge, or 1 kingdom on the verge of collapse, right? So that's your hook. 3 paths, which is telling you there are 3 points of view, 1 kingdom on the verge of collapse. All right. So you have that hook, right? Then let me see. So I have Emmett's dilemma. So I'm starting off with this paragraph right here. Let's see if we can't sort of get that down to like viewer. Well, actually, you have 2 paragraphs here about Emmett, right? And it's just a lot of backstory. And it's backstory that I think you can sort of sum up to give us the same feeling. Because again, we're just going for his vibe. Like, we don't have to know all the details. We just need to know just enough to like whet our appetite, right? So his dilemma is that like he's expected to lead, but he refuses. And the stakes are that he's going to abandon this rebellion, right? So let's see. If you said something along the lines of like, Emmett Cordial was supposed to be a hero, raised by rebels to reclaim the throne stolen from his family. He's now 16 and ready to disappear. Mm-hmm. He's seen what power does, and he wants nothing to do with it. Right. So I summed it up there without saying whose lands that Vishya stole, that he was a princeling in Kosovo, like, the Viper Queen. I didn't mention any of these other names or places, just that he was supposed to be a hero. He was raised by the rebels to reclaim the throne stolen from his family. And now he's 16 and he's ready to give the whole thing the middle finger. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So we have that. So now let's move to the second piece here. You've got the second point of view, right? So Averlith, right? This is the core of sort of like Averlith. All we really need to know is Averlith's start to the story. Where is she when she starts the story, right? And we're going to kind of try and connect it back to Emmett so that it flows. Right. But we can't, again, we don't want to get lost in the details. And you kind of get lost in these details about the Easterner's blood and where she was raised and what she wants and who she wants to see on the throne. Like, let's just sum it up, like real simple. Like, Averlith was sent to bring him back, trained to track, loyal to the rebellion, bound by a past she doesn't understand. She believes his return could change everything. Right. So I didn't necessarily make it shorter, but I tried to just like take out all the names, while still giving the same information.
And if we've already established in that first paragraph kind of what the heart of the story is, then by tying Averlith to that directly, it feels like a very the flow. It feels like we're telling the same story, even though this is probably a different POV. We're still getting to the same thing.
Yeah. And then let's connect the third part back to Emmett, right? So we've got this assassin, right? And you say he's an assassin for the Viper Queen, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know the unrefusable ultimatum or anything. I haven't read the book yet, but I just said, what if he's an assassin loyal to the Viper Queen and he's running out of chances? His orders are simple: kill Emmett before he sparks an uprising, right? So just like real simple, say that. And obviously then we know how, he connects back because he's killing Emmett and he wants to do it. His timeline is before Emmett starts the uprising. So now we've kind of tied all three of those together without necessarily bringing in all the background information, right? So the last thing that I have that I made a note on is kind of in this very back part here, like the cliffhanger. I love this phrase, the cat and mouse chase, but it takes this epic story and makes it feel small, because cats and mice aren't really big creatures. Like, they're small and cute. And even if the cat is trying to kill a mouse, I think you're playing it down when you need to play it up, right? This is the chance to like play it up and really show this active skill, because we've got this super political story that you've made really personal with these three characters, right? And so now let's end it with something like, I don't know, like use words like fractured kingdom and rising rebellions. Like I was just like typing stuff out. But I kind of came up with this, but with the war brewing and alliances unraveling, none of their paths are simple. And each must decide what loyalty means when the cost of, freedom is at stake, or the, freedom and the crown, something like that. So I would just kind of encourage you, don't play it down. This is the place where you blow it out of the water, right?
Right.
So, all right, let me come back where I can see you. Oh my gosh, I've lost my window, Hank.
Uh-oh.
I've lost my window. The one where I can see all the people. Oh, here we go.
Oh. Okay.
All right. How are you feeling about that, Journey? You feeling okay? Because I think you've got an amazing start here. And Journey, you're so good at this, kid. You're so good at this. Like, you can do this. And, it's all there. What you have is there. Let's just refine it.
Yeah. And it helps that you have a very well fleshed out story that we had elements to pull from. So that's amazing. Just awesome. Because you kind of, and this is what everybody goes through first, because like Abby said, you have all the story in your head. So you tend to kind of want to oversell it because you want to tell everybody all of the things. And that's because you wrote a great story and you've got a lot going on, and that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Such a good thing.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to read
the next one?
Yeah. You want to read Andrea's?
Yeah. Let me put it on my bigger monitor though, so I can actually see the text. And okay, let's see. Water Witch. Alina Whitelight is a witch. There is no secret at home. This is no secret at home, excuse me. Although they insist on keeping it that way, for not only magic is unknown to the world as we know it, but it's also dangerous. After all, magic is the curse that killed her cousin Ray. But Alina's powers are growing, and she is convinced that learning about them will be safer than ignoring them. Luck strikes when she arrives to Crystal Bay and stumbles upon Orla, an older witch who seems to have all the knowledge Alina is so thirsty for, and who agrees to help her out. However, the old witch prefers to share her secrets via her assistant, a vampire named Vincent, who seems willing to assist the young witch, for he knows she could be the key to the freedom he has been longing for. And busy as they all are with their own hidden agendas, who is looking out for the power-hungry creature who is lurking around? ... All
right, so I'm going to preface this by saying, first of all, I love all the names in this story, even though I'm about to tell you to cut 2 of them out. But I want to preface this by saying I love the names that you have chosen for this. It was like the first thing that struck me when I read this, when you put it in circle. I think they're great. And so you have an opportunity here to add some sort of genre keywords. Like I would imagine if you can somehow find a way to weave in like forbidden magic, like I think that would be something that people are searching for. And I think that you could probably weave that in pretty eloquently. And that would help people when searching online to pop that book up. Right. So this first paragraph right here, I think is actually super great world building. But I think if you could get to her goal a little faster, like you sort of tell us the goal in the second period, but I think or the second paragraph, I think if you could work it into the first paragraph, it would read a little more, it would read snappier and catch attention better, because hiding isn't a really great goal. Hiding isn't a really active thing. It feels sort of passive, and it doesn't always feel really urgent. So I think if you said something in this first paragraph, like her powers are spiraling out of control, then the fact that she's hiding, it's hard. You realize it's hard for her to hide because these powers are spiraling out of control. Yeah. And even though you say here it's dangerous and the magic is the curse that killed her cousin Ray, I don't even know if you would have to put this part in there if you just said her powers are spiraling out of control and it's harder for her to hide them. It just feels, I think, active, and it has a little more tension to it that I think would grab someone. Also, when you get down here to the second paragraph, so you've got Orla here, and then you've got Vincent, and they're sort of spread out, but they're connected. Those two, they seem to be connected, at least for what this back copy needs to do. So if you could sort of like, I think, roll them into one sentence to set it up, I think that buys you a little space to have essentially a little more to your jacket copy. So like you could say something like an older witch and her secretive vampire assistant, and kind of pull those two together. Yeah. You kind of see what I'm saying there? Yeah. And then that kind of like, let's look at the same sentence about who seems willing to assist the young witch. Like that also could be a little bit more active. So just like that first paragraph, like a vampire who sees Alina as the key to breaking his curse, and he's not the only one watching her, right? So it's like dun, 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 which kind of pulls us into that last piece right here. Power hungry is like so good because you know they're going to be desperate if they're power hungry, right? But the word creature is kind of vague too. So like if you buy yourself some space by combining Orla and the secretive assistant, right? And you leave yourself a few words down here to sort of dig into this, like, what is the creature? Like, is it a monster? Is it another witch? Is it like an older, darker witch? Like, if you can make it a little bit meatier, I think it'll give the readers a little more understanding of like this journey that they're going on.
Right.
So, do you have anything to add, Hank?
No, that's perfect.
Sorry, you guys didn't realize you're getting editor Abby today, were you?
I love it.
So, all right, Andrea, so good though, so good.
So good.
Yeah. Water witch. I'm like, ooh, water witch. I just think about them like trying to drown women to see if they floated, they were witches, or if they sunk, they were witches. But then if they sunk, they weren't witches, but they were also dead. I don't know.
Right. Which seemed awfully convenient for someone.
Right?
Whatever.
Yeah, Salem people.
Yeah. All right, David.
All right,
move on.
Go for it. You got to get your best D&D voice on though. If it's David.
David Howlett Stewart on the rewrite. Someone has ignited a prophecy to bring the Dreadlords back to power. The kingdom of Bargot will be the battleground, the empty throne, the prize. Theodoric Helder, a rage-filled human mercenary captain, Trim Swiftwhistle, a shortling minstrel, solo huntress assassin, and Bereris Galanodel, a greenskin hating exiled half-elf archer, are the only ones able to stand in the way of the prophecy, because they are part of the prophecy. They are the Light's champions. Now they must find the long-lost sword of the king and the last heir of the kingdom, all before the solace. When the power of the darkness holds sway over the light, can the champions prevail? They must. Otherwise, the next move will be the Dreadlords, and they play for keeps. In the eternal struggle between light and the dark, even gods must bow to these cosmic entities. There are many pieces in play. The dark, its Dreadlords, and the light, its champions. Because should these two powers ever come together, well, that would be the end. The end of everything.
You gave me chills at the end, Hank. I love the way you read that part. By the way, I think everybody, before their jacket copy goes out into the world, you just need to ask Hank to read it out loud for you just once so you can feel the rhythm of the words.
And I'm reading these blind for the first time, so send it to me. Let me read it a couple of times, and I'll do a recording for you. I'll be happy to.
Ooh, I love it.
Send me a message in the cafe. I'll be happy to do it.
All right. So, I mean, this whole thing, just like, I have never met David in person, but it makes me want to meet David in person because I just think you are so fun and you have amazing names as well. The tone of this is epic.
Yeah.
Epic.
It's obviously epic. Like that.
But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say that there's a lot of names and races and types of characters represented here, and we're talking about those context clues earlier. This all leads into what this story is about. It's a little overwhelming when you first read through it, but you get the idea that this is an epic story, that there's a lot going on here. So I'm interested to hear your feedback on this, Abby.
Okay. So like the first thing that I'm going to suggest is, I mean, it's an epic tone, but yet you start us off with the word someone, which is like the most vague word I could think of to start the jacket copy off with. So let's find a way to like make it, I think, a little more active and specific. So my guess is you might not want people to know from the beginning who ignited the prophecy, right? Which is why you led with the word someone.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and that's cool. Don't tell people. Obviously, you don't need to be specific and say it was like Valdor, the dark half elf butt cheek. I don't know. I'm not good at D&D, even though I love it. But you might not want to tell us who, but say something like the prophecy has been reignited. So that right there is just more active than someone ignited this prophecy, right?
Yeah.
So make it super active. The prophecy has been reignited. The Dreadlords are rising, right? And then that goes in nicely with, because there's a nice rhythm to these first sentences.
Yeah.
The kingdom of Bargot will be the battleground, the empty throne, the prize, right? Yeah. So that just kind of helps.
We get this feeling of rising tension when you state it that way also.
Yeah. So then, all right, let's talk about the name dump right here in the sense. So the same thing is kind of the other ladies. We've got this really short span of time that you have to be able to get to have people like sort of get just the feel for the heart of your story, right? But when you hit them with not just 3 names, like 3 full names, followed by 3 super specific but very vivid descriptions, it's really hard for the the brain to sort of process all of that in a really short span of time. So remember what Doug said yesterday about how people are skimming?
Mm-hmm.
You can't skim this paragraph.
No.
Like there's literally, there's just no way you can skim it and walk away with it.
Right.
So you're forcing people to slow down and read it. And that might not be in your best interest because you kind of need to make this like poetry, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I know you need to keep all three of these names because these three guys are the Lights champions, which, by the way, I love that, the Lights champions. And so they're part of this prophecy. So if you can find a way to like cut the descriptions just a little and just focus on like their roles in the mission, I would hazard to guess that if you had this cover illustrated, it's going to do some of the heavy lifting that things like a green-skinned, hating, exiled half-elf archer would do.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, because it reads like a D&D character sheet, which is totally the intent. But I think you have to leave that for the story proper and find a way to just make it a little easier to digest right here in this spot, because you want them to keep reading. This whole thing gives the chosen ones energy. And I love that energy. It's like, I am a chosen one. Like, I want to be a Lights champion. And by the way, of course, David is writing about a quest. If anyone I knew were to write about a quest, it would be David. That is like his magic word. And this whole jacket copy just screams David to me. And I love that. So this last part here, I kind of want to talk about this. So even the gods must bow to these cosmic entities. That threw my brain just a little because that made me ask this question. Are the champions and the dreadlords like stronger than gods?
Right.
And if you don't want the reader to ask that question, maybe think about sort of rewording that, because I don't know if you intended us to ask that question or not.
Right.
And I was also down here in the bottom, kind of thinking about this, should these two powers ever come together? Well, that would be the end of everything. So that leads me to ask, are you saying that the battle alone ends everything? Like if they just fight it, period? Or are you trying to say if the champions fail, then the light fails and the world goes too? So, I wasn't really sure which way you wanted that to go. So maybe find a way to sort of shore that up a little so that that piece is really clear, because that's what's at stake in this whole story. So that's your cliffhanger. That's super important.
Yeah.
You got anything else about David?
No, other you already hit it. That second paragraph specifically is hard. You can't breeze through that. Like, and I understand there's a lot of information there that is important. But yeah, and like you said, cover art will do half of this heavy lifting for you already. Yeah.
I want the illustration to this so badly. Yeah, like, right. I want to see this illustrated so badly.
Yeah.
You guys are all like so creative and awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Meg. Here's Take My Money, Meg Flanagan. That's what I'm going to start calling you, Meg. Take My Money, Meg. All right, you want to read it?
Here we go. Sophie Rivers is a young woman down on her luck. After losing her beloved aunt and her long-term relationship with her boyfriend, her terrible boss is breathing down her neck and threatening her job as well. When her car gets stuck in a ditch outside a hospice house, she thinks things couldn't get worse. But when the people she meets inside are not what she expects, she finds herself going back there day after day, until one day she realizes not all the folks she's been talking to are strictly alive. The relationships she forges in hospice challenge everything she thought she knew about life and death. And when she starts falling for a dying man, she is faced with the hardest choice of her life. She must learn that embracing the end of life is the only way to truly begin living her own.
That's why I'm like, take my money, Meg.
Right.
When you got to until one day she realizes not all the folks she's been talking to are strictly alive. That's when I was like,
what?
This is amazing. And then I get to that last sentence. She must learn that embracing the end of life is the only way to truly begin living her own. Like, I choked back tears, and I don't even know the name of this man she's falling in love with. Which, by the way, the rest of you guys, take note of that. She's only given me one name in this whole thing, but yet I ended up with tears for this dying man whose name I don't even know.
Yeah.
It's great. So let's work on another like iteration to sort of to make it even better, because that's kind of what this is about. So let's start up at the top. Sophie Rivers is a young woman down on her luck. All right, now down on her luck sounds bad, but it doesn't sound as desperate as like hit rock bottom, right? So Sophie Rivers hit rock bottom, and it sounds like now life is shoveling more dirt on top of her. Almost like she feels like she is headed to the grave herself, right? Which kind of like ties back into what we're saying at the bottom. So if the death of her favorite aunt wasn't enough, her boyfriend dumps her, and now her boss is on the verge of firing her too. So like, if you can be a little specific down here, like the long, she's lost her aunt and her long-term relationship with her boyfriend, but there's kind of a difference between breaking up with someone and being dumped. Yeah. And like, being dumped is, I would guess, just on the surface, probably worse. And so if you can get kind of specific here with that.
Or did her boyfriend die?
Or, how did she lose him?
Yeah, was he run over by a trash truck or what? Like
I lose Sean in the mall all the time. I don't think that's what she's talking about here.
Right.
So if you can be specific, and specific in a way that makes us feel bad for Sophie, I think that's going to help really grab us. Because if you noticed, I didn't get grabbed by this until here. I mean, you grabbed me and you didn't let go. Yeah. But you've got to make people keep reading until they get here.
And Meg said dumped, yes, not dead.
Dumped, not dead, and not just lost in the mall. Thank God. Okay. So also, like right here, when her car gets stuck in a ditch outside the hospice house, she thinks things couldn't get worse. Like, this is the last straw.
Right.
I want to point something out to you, though, Meg. These two paragraphs, when I read this, I actually thought that you were writing a rom-com.
That's why I started with my rom-com voice.
Yeah. It wasn't until I got here that I realized, wait a minute, there's a twist to this.
Yes.
It's definitely not a rom-com. It sounds like there's a romance to it. But part of my question is the romance central or secondary? Like, what is the genre of this story? Is it literary? Is it upmarket? With the romance and the supernatural is sort of like this sub layer? Or is it The Fault in Our Stars? That's like the romance between like the one character who is like cancer or is dying or something. And I didn't read it and I didn't see the movie, so I'm literally just going off of pop culture references here. Yes. But I believe that's a romance in the forefront, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's a coming of age romance. Yeah, there's kind of a lot going on. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love the twist, but I think you're going to have to find a way to sort of like specify, like make the genre a little more evident from the start, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because in the beginning, it feels like How to Lose a Guy at 10 Days. And the ending of it is more like Nicholas Sparks' heartbreak tearjerker.
Yeah.
So we've got a little conflict between the first two paragraphs and the second two paragraphs.
Yeah. Besides the genre whiplash, I mean, I am not kidding you. When I got to this point, I was like, I literally in my notes wrote in all capital letters, "Shut up. I love this. I did not see this twist coming."
Yeah.
So amazing. Amazing. So, okay. You want to move on to Bees? Bees got this is a picture book. So this is the first picture book we've looked at.
Isabel and the Panda Posse. Isabel's favorite stuffed panda, Izzy, has been stolen by a monster. The rest of the pandas, along with Isabel, form a posse to find her and defeat the monster. Come along and face fear head on and know that you can win when you try.
Nice. All right. So I actually think this one needs to be a little bit longer.
Yeah.
I think I would look at some other picture book jacket copy and try and mimic it. I might have to think this one through a little bit more to see. I mean, it would take a little internet searching to see what the rhythm or the cadence is for a picture book.
Yeah.
I would say for like just initially my reaction was maybe vary your sentence structure a little bit and read it out loud as you do, because picture books are known for being read out loud. So I think reading it out loud helps you find that rhythm. So I gave it a shot. God, Hank, you've got me like feeling worried that I don't have the cool reading voice that you do. Hold on,
do you want me to read it for you? Do you want me to read it?
Because I'd have to send it to you.
Well, I have it on my screen.
When Isabel, that's right. You have my notes.
I have the notes. I'm with you. When Isabel's favorite stuffed panda, Izzy, goes missing, she knows just who took it. Just who took her. A monster. But monsters don't stand a chance against the panda posse. With courage and a little teamwork, Isabel sets out to bring Izzy home. A heartwarming tale about bravery, friendship, and the quiet power of love, even in the face of the unknown.
I mean, just to like roast myself, like my last bit there, like my cliffhanger at the end, I don't think was very cliffhangery. Like the one thing I don't think that I hit in my version and I think is missing from B's version too is sort of the stakes of this, because I mean, picture books, they have all the same elements of story that all the rest of the adult books we're writing have. You know, there's still stakes, there's still conflict, there's still all of these things. And so I think you have to find a way to also bring that through in the jacket copy, which the great thing about this is it's like so little kid. It's amazing. I mean, your stuffed animal goes missing and you're pretty convinced a monster took it. I don't know if your kids were anything like my kids when they were little, but I used to keep like a spray bottle of water that I had like put a little bit of perfume, like that body spray that has glitter in it. I had put a little in it so it smelled like something. And when they would freak out about monsters in the middle of the night, I would like spray it under their bed and tell them it was like Monster Begone spray. So like these are like super little kid fears. Like my favorite stuffed animal is missing. It's been taken by a freaking monster. Everybody better come along and help me beat this monster, right?
Right.
But like, what happens if they don't beat the monster? And I think that's where you're going to hook the kids, because kids are going to have this fear. And that's where you're sort of hooking into it is by, you're speaking their language at that point. And so, I had a terrible cliffhanger at the end, but I think, all of these things that we've talked about today are all really good starts. They just need, another iteration or two, or like 20 if you're me, because I'm pretty sure that's even having Jen write it. I still went in and made like a million billion tweaks to it. So, all right. I don't know if that helped B at all. Definitely don't steal my cliffhanger. It was really bad, but let's read NJ's.
All right. NJ, A Dance in the Garden. He sees a carefree soul unburdened by high society rules and expectations. She sees a slick, arrogant heir entertaining himself. Society pulls them apart, but something draws them together. Caught between two worlds, they must decide whether they will meet expectations or deny them to discover something more.
Ooh la la. All right, so I'm going to make a couple of guesses here. Let's see if I can guess the genre just based on the jacket copy. So, is this a historical romance novella? I'm going to wait. I can't see the chat, so you'll have to tell me if NJ responds.
Okay.
Wait. Okay. I think this is super romantic and visual.
She said yes. And
actually,
exclamation.
Okay. Yes. Okay, good. And like it gives cinematic vibes to me. Do you think the same, Hank? Like it's very cinematic. Dual POV.
I got Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, kind of.
Ooh.
That's
this
gothic sort of. That's this kind of that was the image.
That's also like the underbelly of Savannah too, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Yeah. This is more high society, I think, right?
Yeah.
So dual POV, love that I can get that just from these, first three sentences here. You get that. I also love that this shows this like flawed perception that each one has of the other one. So that creates you instantly know what the tension is going to be between the two of them.
Right.
Right. So a little like Mr. Darcy and, Liza Bennett sort of thing. Except Liza Bennett and Mr. Darcy are not in the same social class. And so that was one of the questions that I sort of had about this, because I love the hints of all of these things without any sort of info dump, right? And especially if this is a novella, I don't think you have to have, it's a shorter work of fiction anyway, you don't have to have all that in there. But I'm still looking for a little more because I'm getting the impression that they're of the same class, right? So this is brief, it's poetic, it totally works. But I just need a hint of specificity, if I'm saying the word right. Like, can you swap out the phrase two worlds with something that sort of makes us understand? Because again, if she's carefree, unburdened by she's unburdened by high society rules because she's choosing to ignore them, or she's unburdened by high society rules because she's not part of high society and therefore does not have to fit into them. And I think that's...
And she says in a comment, she's employed by his family, so not the same class at all.
Okay, so that's the piece that I think it's missing is, there's just enough in this sentence that I could have read it either way.
Right.
And I think if you can just make this part here a little more specific, that's going to help. And then this does a ton of heavy lifting. I mean, a ton. So it just needs that extra detail. You got anything, Hank?
No, I was going to say the same thing. If you could just sprinkle in that last sentence, just be a little more specific about the two worlds. Then I think you stick that landing like Mary Lou Retton.
Yeah, NJ's saying, I'm not sure how to work it in. I mean, here's the great thing about writing, you guys, is it's not like learning how to work a film camera. It doesn't cost anything. It doesn't use up, materials. Yeah. You've got this right here. Press enter a couple of times, copy, paste it in the bottom, and then start tearing it apart. And there's no telling how you're going to be able to put this together. I mean, it might just be something as simple as he sees a carefree soul, unburdened by his high society rules and expectations. I mean, maybe just putting that word his in there.
Yeah. Just
is all it takes.
Puts all that weight on him.
Separate them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, play with it a little.
Yeah.
All right. Did we miss anything? You guys, I mean, I can't say this enough. You're amazing. And you're also, I want to say thank you to every single person who gave us their work for feedback, because it's not easy receiving feedback, even if you're ready for it, even if it's given nicely, even if everything is acknowledged that, you're good and you're on the right track. Sometimes it still stings. And the fact that you guys did it very publicly, thank you, because you were open and raw enough to share this, and everybody got to benefit from it.
Yeah.
And so, thank you guys so much for being willing to do that. And I know, because I was on a podcast with Jenny Nash for like 3 seasons and over 100 episodes, where she tore my stuff up in front of a live studio audience. And so anyway, thank you guys so much.
Yeah. Thanks for playing along, for sure.
Yeah. It's a great way to end a Friday.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, okay. We don't have any questions then.
NJ said it helps to have the outside perspective.
I know.
I know too much to be objective. And that's the problem, is that, you get inside your head and you just need a new set of eyeballs sometimes.
Yeah.
For sure.
So, well, I do this, right? But my kids do this, the Korean part. I never do it right. I think that.
Yeah, maybe. I don't either. I don't.
Heart and hands. Thank you guys for playing along here at home. Everybody have a great weekend. And we'll see you guys on Monday when we talk about formatting, which I'm super excited, Hank, to see what you have to say about formatting. I have done it all at once. All of once for my one copy here. And so I'm really hoping you've got some good tips that will help make it even better for me.
I hope so. And we also have a special guest next week. Josh Hayes is going to come and talk about how great formatting, is invisible. If done correctly, it's just a great experience for your reader, and that's what you want.
So come be invisible with us next week.
That's right.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Have a great weekend.